Welcome. You're tuned in to Impact Money. We are live in Texas and Louisiana, and we have the best in finance and cryptocurrencies. And hey, Bruce, how are you? Good morning.
Fantastic, David. How about yourself?
Yeah, doing well, doing well, getting going this Monday morning. Busy weekend and doing lots of stuff. And here we are. So, how are you?
Amazing. Doing very well. Getting going here as we have our friend Randy, Mr. Lead Pro there himself, and he has booked me in Jersey. So I'll be speaking a little bit later today there in Jersey, and so I'm pretty excited about that. I love New York, and it's North Jersey, so I'll probably venture in. I might be a little crusty-eyed tomorrow morning. I'm not sure, but we'll see. One way or the other, we're gonna have an awesome time. That's for sure. And me, I love speaking anyway, especially when we have such crazy times as we have now.
Yeah, there you go. So you've been tuned in to the news lately?
I have been tuned into the news. You know how I roll, right? I am in the news, of course. Pretty crazy stuff we have going on. We don't even need we don't even need any type of crazy stuff or talk about crazy stuff because, of course, it is just crazy. The border continues to heat up there down in Texas. You have the border, or the National Guard has taken over the border there in various places. There still does appear to be a pretty porous border, though. I must say, I put out a post. Let me just pull it up here. Put out a post last night, and it was, and this is on my X account. As if you watch us regularly, I will normally post a lot of what I'm going to post on my X account before I come on. Now, sometimes I guess I have to start getting up a little bit earlier.
I think it's those Monday mornings are always a little more.
Yeah. Right. So this is what I wanted to talk about right here. So this is a report, and I'm gonna play it for us. But this reported migrant exchange at the border wall. This is supposed to be on National Guard controlled property. Wonder how much money it takes to get a busload of migrants like that into the country illegally and processed for government housing and benefits. I mean, yeah, I wonder, because there is a cost to that, and I wonder how much it is. Let's just watch this report here. This is pretty interesting. I did credit JLR Investigates.
Look at this. That's Border Patrol. That's Border Patrol.
Wow.
The Border Patrol does go. That's Border Patrol. It has green on it.
Interesting. Yeah, there's definitely a market.
It's a Border Patrol van. So when they do this,
business,
this is sometimes a pickup spot, folks. So we'll see if anyone gets marched down or dropped off there for Border Patrol. Look, there's people getting out of that van. I can't tell what's going on. Oh, there's people getting in that van. They're doing an exchange. Let me see if I can get down here. They're doing an exchange. Yeah, look, folks. They're doing an exchange. Migrants. Look. There they are. So the van swapped them right there. Yeah. And they're doing that in an area. Look at that. And the van goes. There you go. Drop off the product, ship them onto the Border Patrol van. And now they're going. And the van's going that way. Look at that. So it is happening at that border entrance right there at the wall. Exchanges are going on. Exchanges are going on, folks. Huh. A unmarked van sits there and waits while a Border Patrol van comes. And this is supposed to be on National Guard Texas take over property. They're supposed to have this whole area taken over. So just east or south of these bridges over here, the bridges where you saw them, people are loaded onto the Border Patrol truck. Now that van will most likely turn left. It will go up the road, most likely to the detention center. Up the road. Wow, there's a group of them. I don't know how many there are. Now they're all going in the van. Man. Let me see if I can get a different angle. Hold on. I'm going to walk over there. I'm going to see if I can get a different angle over here. It's going to be hard because they Border Patrol. Hey, that van's going to be out of here in a second, as soon as it loads them in. Oh, there it goes. It's leaving. Border Patrol.
Look at that, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
And there it goes. Most likely to the detention center. I think it's 277 north between here and Del Rio, up by the Maverick Airport. There's a huge job migrant detention center.
And when they say
they were exchanging people. White van comes there, waits. Border Patrol comes, they unload, white van leaves, Border Patrol stays there in the van, puts people in the van, and now they're going north.
So, it's absolutely insane, really, what's going on. I mean, if we have a process in order to cross the border and in order to get into the country, and that is definitely not being respected by whoever those people are, and I'm sure they're operating in some type of capacity. I mean, I don't know. Of course, this was what looks like a citizen reporter. So, not that makes it not valid or anything like that, but just to be full clear about it. Now we have, of course, Texas is reinforcing. Playing into the different types of things that we have going on. Congress is, I think, in my opinion, kind of being shown that they really don't have that much control, which is what I've been saying for quite a while. The central bank is actually running everything. But I think what's happening right now is it is becoming obvious that they aren't in control. Trump is like, hey, look, we don't need a border bill. Trump is, I think, by all, they were going to call him the presumptive nominee at this point, but he said, no, let me just win this thing straight out. And I'm sure he had his reasons for that. Probably they were, who knows, probably some funny business going on. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see how that plays out. Markets are tepid today, kind of a mixed bag. I'll run over those a little bit before we bring on our main man, Matthew Dixon. Here, let me just bring this right back up. See here. Okay. Follow my X account at Networks Manager. Follow David Porter at Sir David Porter, and of course Matt Dixon, who will be on in a second, is MD Trade. MD Trade. So here we are. Silver is up almost a point. Having a pretty nice day. Of course, as we've talked about silver quite a bit before, I think that silver is artificially kept down by the paper on the futures. So pretty interesting situation that you have there. I feel like people are loading up their bags. I feel like they're loading up their bags is what they're doing with the silver before that price jumps a lot. Should say we're not financial advisors and all that stuff. Do your own research. Gold is up about 0.5%. As well. Very steady price that we have there happening. Asian stock market is a mixed bag. If you look at this now, Shanghai is down about a point, and then you have the Hong Kong exchange, which is up about a point. Now, kind of my eye is really on this Hong Kong one. Matt mentioned it before. The 15,000 level is kind of a psychological level, and they of course went below that a while ago, and then now you see up there quite a bit doing good. And then we have what's some of the other ones here I wanted to pull out. Just kind of a mixed bag. Mixed bags what we have there. NASDAQ futures are flat. Dow futures are flat. It'll be interesting how that plays out. Commodities are interesting as well here, what we have going on. Oil is holding those gains. I would say flat. It is flat, but 78 per barrel is a decent rise from what we've been looking at, 73 or so. I feel like we've been talking since we've been talking about it. It's risen. Natural gas again taking a dive. They are really we might need to start trading natural gas, David. There's some good volatility there. I mean, we're seeing 5-6% moves on that market in a single day quite often.
Yeah, the gas companies are major liquidity providers, so we should definitely get into the market there.
I agree. We start trading some oil futures and some natural gas futures.
Oh yes, the oil guys, they're some of the wealthiest people I've ever seen.
So Bitcoin, and let me just pull that up here. Bitcoin is up. Now, there is some news that came out today, but it doesn't seem to be having much effect on the market. Let me just pull this up here. So Bitcoin, the king of all monetary revolution here, down on 24-hour about 1/3%. You see Ethereum down about 0.5%. BNB up slightly, kind of a mixed bag across the cryptos as well. I think as we, a lot of those futures contracts closed, I feel like on, or the margin future contracts closed on the last Friday of the month. So that was last Friday. I kind of feel like we probably have a nice push up from here. Internet computer, one of my favorites. That looks to me like a pretty nice entry point. I got to be honest for this one. I feel like if you take this out to a 1 month, you can see here it's over $16. And, the thing about this internet computer is they have quite a group behind them. They have a very, very good team. So pretty interesting. Let's see what our friend Matt has to say. I think I have our Evade platform as well enabled, David, so we can start trading with the inside information again. Hello, Matt. How are you, sir?
Hello. Good morning. Morning, Bruce. Morning, David. Morning, America. World again. Yeah, pleasure to be here. So, there's been a few exciting things and some not so good things happening in the news. When I say exciting, it depends on which side of the fence you are. But of course, we've had the Evergrande collapse in the Chinese property group, basically. Biggest property group ever. I think it's a $300 billion collapse, isn't it? But It was already known in advance. It's been dragging on for a long, long, long time. And they could still appeal again. But it looks as though they're trying to draw a line in the sand, draw a line under it. And that's probably what should have happened with all the financial assets back in 2008 when they're not viable. They're not viable. So maybe
that's what the bankruptcy laws are for. That's what they're for. That's why we have bankruptcy laws.
So you mentioned about the Hang Seng. Yes, it's gone above 15,000, but that's basically because they have actually agreed a lot more stimulus. There's a lot more liquidity they're pumping in. So effectively, they are money printing effectively in China.
They learned from the best, or we learned from the best. We're doing it. Both of all the countries of the world, they're printing this paper money, and they're stealing all your value.
Yeah. So I'm going to share screen again just to look at a couple of things. We did say that we're going to look a little bit into silver and gold, didn't we?
We did.
So I think that would be good. So I'm going to share the screen. Well, obviously, first of all, we'll just take a little quick look. I trust you can see my screen there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll just start off. First of all, we've got a Fed decision coming up on Wednesday, which is really very, very important because despite everything we've said in our Fed bashing session, they are very important because when they set future interest rates, it has a massive impact on the market, particularly short term. So everything they say, the market is hanging on every word that they say. And then the press conference after, there's some very probing questions that are often asked about the future trajectory and expectations of the market. So there's over 90% chance that they're going to leave rates on hold. I think it's actually over 95% now. So they look as though they're going to leave rates on hold. But as I say, that's not the important thing. The important thing is the future expectation and what they call future guidance on the economy. So that's very, very important because obviously if the economy is booming, then it potentially means rates will stay higher for longer, which is not really what the market wants. These rates are very high. They're actually causing a lot of pain, beginning to cause a lot of pain in the market. And I think this inflation was actually driven in large part by external drivers like the war in Ukraine and the pressure, geopolitical pressures in the Middle East and so on. And that's still, whilst it is abating a little bit, we're still having some problems brewing there. So we saw, I think, a drone attack by Iran that killed 3 Americans on a base there, didn't it? So that's a very bad sign because Biden has said that they will basically take retribution. There will be, payback for what's happened there. And this is a really volatile situation potentially with Iran because they're certainly not best friends with America. And they've been sponsoring, they're the proxy sponsor, or they've been sponsoring all the proxies attacking Israel. So there's a lot of, unrest there that's bubbling away, and it's quite dangerous for the markets, what might be coming in the market. And how does this all affect what's happening? Well, you said that the Bitcoin and everything is a little bit flat at the moment. That's because we're waiting for this interest rate decision Wednesday. Normally, in the days that run up to interest rate decision day, markets are very quiet. They don't want to take big positions ahead of the decision because they don't know quite what information is going to come out that might change things dramatically. And so this is the Bitcoin chart. It's actually gone exactly according to expectation. I've been trading it really effectively, and we've been trading it very well using the eBay ratings platform as well. So internally, we've been testing. We did some tremendous performance this month, and we will be sharing that in detail in a future show coming up very soon with Impact Money. So we'll be looking forward to sharing that. But from the bottom here, we've had an A wave up, what I see as a triangle B wave, and then a W and an X and an ABY should finish the upside, I believe. Now, if this is a correct interpretation, and this is what's called a triangle formation, then this wave count is correct, and it would mean that we have lower to come below here. Doesn't mean we're headed for a crash or anything of that sort, but it would just mean that there will be a correction lower. So maybe that when the Fed comes out with their commentary, maybe it's a little bit more hawkish than people are anticipating. Maybe they still say they're going to stay very vigilant regarding inflation. Interest rates may stay longer, may stay higher, longer than expected. If that's the case, then we would expect it's a hawkish statement. It's usually bad for risk assets. So we may see at least a minor sell-off to, in Bitcoin and other risk assets. And I think we're due a pullback anyway, really, with these markets, even though Bitcoin has fallen back a bit. The correction may be a bit more complex, a bit more long-standing. And the same with the S&P 500, the Dow. I think they're probably due a bit of a rest, a bit of a breather, because they've run up so strongly. So that wouldn't surprise me. So I wanted to just touch a little bit on gold and silver, because I know you have great interest and a lot of your followers are really interested in gold and silver.
Indeed.
So this is looking at the long-term relationship, and it's quite interesting to see correlations here. You can see the correlation between gold and silver. They've followed each other reasonably well for a long, long time throughout really the recent financial history from the 1970s. But then just look, from 2017 onwards, we've seen a massive divergence. We see gold, the gold price going up and the silver price going down. So a massive divergence there, which is quite unusual. And you need to try and think about what would be causing that. And the next chart, I think, may give some clues as to what is causing it. So this is actually showing in the gray areas are the recessions that we see. And then we're seeing the gold-silver ratio. So when you see a high gold-silver ratio, and they always talk about this gold-silver ratio, it used to be kind of in lockstep. And when one was going up, the other would go up. And they stayed in the kind of ratio. But as I say, since 2017 at least, they've been diverging. But there still has been some fluctuation. So during times of recession, we see that the gold price is basically high compared to the silver price. Now, what that's telling you is there's very different uses for these materials. So gold is a store of value, whereas silver is very much an industrial metal. There's a lot of industrial uses for silver. So during times of recession, you see the silver price going down compared with the gold price. So that's why the gold ratio, in other words, the ratio of gold to silver price, goes up during recession. And we see it over and over and over again. It's quite amazing to see. So if we can predict future recessions, then we can get a very good idea of the this gold-silver ratio, and we can use it to trade profitably, to give us some advantage, some indications to inform us of how to trade. Now, we are reasonably confident that recession is coming. I mean, we've seen signs of that with Evergrande, the collapse and the pumping of money in China. US, yes, we've said over and over again, has been really resilient, strong employment figures, et cetera, but we're beginning to see signs of weakness in the US. Recession is coming. All the signs have been there, where we've seen the yield curve that gives us signs. We've seen employment beginning to weaken, and signs of property and rentals and commercial property, and there's so many signs out there. So, and the fact that even the Fed are talking about now pivoting and lowering interest rates, they know the economy is slowing. So I think that we are actually heading towards this time of recession, and they will be lowering interest rates, and they will at some point want to reflate the economy and pump money in. But what we're seeing is, if that were to happen and we see recession, we know historically that the gold-silver ratio is going to peak. So we're going to see gold going up against silver, and silver suffers during times of economic trouble. So this gives you indications of where we're going. So you can draw your own conclusions on how to trade that, but it's quite good signs. So here's something where we can look at the dollar index against gold. This is using the wave basis chart. I shared the link to this, and I can do that again sometime. But again, here you can see, this is back from just looking over a year here, but you can see they move very much in opposite directions. So again, if you want signs how to trade gold, then have a look at how dollar index moves, or vice versa. They're both kind of inversely correlated. Where you see the dollar index come down, you see gold price go up, and every move you see is virtually opposite. And so we can get some good idea of what's going to happen with the dollar, and then we can deduce from that what's going to happen with gold. And we saw that gold and silver, also there's an interrelationship there. So all these assets, different assets, are interrelated, and we can even relate it when we look, for example, if you want to look at the Bitcoin relationship. And what I've done here, I put Bitcoin at the top, gold in the middle, then silver. And as I said, you can see recently that the gold and the silver have been inversely correlated. You can see here moving in opposite directions. But the most interesting one is Bitcoin is related to silver. And that makes sense when you consider what I've just said, that silver tends to do well during times of economic booms when the economy is strong because it's an industrial used metal. They use silver a lot. It's used so much in industrial processes. So there's a relationship between Bitcoin and silver because when the economy is booming, there's money available to invest in Bitcoin and there's money available to invest in silver, basically, because you need to invest in it because the economy is booming. So they tend to move together. And we've seen that the market moves down with Bitcoin, the market moves down with silver, but kind of oppositely with gold. And that's what we saw with that gold-silver ratio and why the gold-silver ratio spikes during times of economic trouble. So if we are to enter a time of economic trouble in the near future, we're likely to see silver dipping, which would mean that Bitcoin will dip initially, and we might see a spike in gold. So that's the kind of overall expectation you might expect there. So I think the rally in Bitcoin, I do believe we're probably going to see some kind of rally, but it may be short-lived for the time being. But at some point during the recession, they need to dig their way out of recession, especially as we said, this is a year they're going to the polls, they're voting, etc. So they're going to be printing money. So yes, recession initially might be a bad sign and might hit markets, but then following that, they're going to dig their way out of recession by printing money, stimulating the economy. That would then push silver higher because it's going to boost the economy. It would push Bitcoin higher because there's going to be more money, free money going into Bitcoin, and gold might not do quite so well. So again, we can see how these assets are interrelated and get a reasonable idea on where markets are going. So hopefully that gives some insight into what we might expect moving forward.
So you're saying we're going to have a run up on Bitcoin, and it's going to be short-lived though, and then it's going to pull back for a while.
Yeah, well, I mean, just depends. It's all time dependent, of course, what time frame you're talking about. I mean, just very short term, this is why it's important to actually follow a platform like eBay because, it depends what your time horizon is. Some people do day trading, some people do kind of week by week or position holding or hodling. And it all depends on your particular trading style as to what time frame you'll look at. So this, for example, is looking at a 4-hour time frame. Each of these 1-hour candles is, I don't know whether I need to enlarge that at all. Maybe I'll enlarge it again, just so as you can see. Each of these candles is basically just over 4 hours. So you can see it's a relatively short time frame. So this is telling you what's likely to happen in the very near future. So I'm expecting a move up towards this Y wave, and it could even happen before the Fed rate decision on Wednesday. Because, as I say, that is going to change the direction of markets most likely. Fed decisions are normally a big crossroads, a big turning point for markets, especially if they come out with something unexpected. And if they came out a little bit more hawkish than people expected, then you'd expect a downturn. But depending on whether you're looking at, the 4-hour, the daily, the weekly, would depend on your outlook. So just very short term, yes, I expect a little bit of upward movement, then some downward movement in Bitcoin. Then following that, we'd expect another move to take us probably above that pre or that ETF launch or approval high of around 49,000. So I do believe that following a correction here, which will take us below 38, I believe, then we will get another push up to above 49. And then it's at that point, I think we'll probably see at some point after that, we'll see a more major correction when we see recession starting to hit. And, it's a bit of a worry in the economy, etc. But when they print money, it's all time dependent, as I say. So if you follow us, then you were talking about this daily, we can see where we're likely to go. We have been really accurate. Remember, just the other day, we were in this triangle formation. We said there's going to be a pump higher out the triangle. Just look what happened. So if you've been trading, if you've been following what we were saying on the show, on the live money show, you basically be in this trade here. I posted on my Twitter over the weekend. I was basically taking a short position from here, and I said I'm closing it here. Again, we're not financial advisors. We're not telling people what to do, but we're just giving you information which will enable you to make better decisions. And that's what eBay is all about. We're not predicting precisely where an asset's going, but we just give you information to help you make better decisions. So hope that gives a bit of direction on where I think we're going.
Yeah, well, pretty interesting. I mean, as you know, we are of course big fans of eBay and what you guys are doing there. So we'll be talking a lot more about that. Also, want to get Global Boost on there. We'll have to talk about that. I know it's a very small cap for that, but looking forward to using it again. We used it very effectively in the past, and just as things were moving in, changing their ratings, from one rating to another. So it's pretty interesting. You mentioned the attack on our the U.S. servicemen over there. It was initially reported Jordan, but it ended up, from what I understand, being in Iraq or Syria. I think those borders are kind of well, anyway. But so now it's being reported that it wasn't actually in Jordan, but yeah, five servicemen lost their lives and 25 injured. So, prayers for their family. But yeah, that's a dicey situation over there. And then you saw natural gas take another dive this morning. I wonder if that had something to do with it.
Yeah, I'll just have a quick look myself about where we're going, what's happening with oil price. Yeah, I see oil has been spiking again, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's holding that 78 level. That's it looks primed to move higher.
Potentially, yeah, which would probably align with, maybe we'll get a little bit more. I mean, we actually surpassed, you can't see my screen at the moment. I mean, I could reshare it, but I think it's okay. We did surpass the 100% extension of the A wave up transposed to a B. So, maybe you can't visualize it, but we passed 100%. So the next target will be 1.618, which is that Fibonacci golden ratio. And that is actually $83. So that is a further $5 rise from where we are right now. So potentially, yes, we are looking at perhaps a further rise. So that would give us at some point probably a further pullback in risk assets.
Yep. Well, all eyes really on the Fed this week, as you mentioned. If they come out and they're very dovish, then you're going to see, I think, things really move. If they take a hawkish tone, they don't have to do much. Just a little of this, a little of that. And of course, that's the Federal Reserve, guys. That's the central bank. Okay, it's the central bank of the United States, and they basically control really the monetary policy for, they control a lot of the different markets of the world with their monetary policy. And I of course, we all rail at times against the Fed. It's a privately held organization, and you don't have any control over it. So it's an interesting thing. It's not a government organization. Well, yeah, very cool.
Amazing the power they have. Amazing the power they do have. So when you listen to the press conference, and I listen to it every time after the Fed decision, the press usually asks quite probing questions, and the markets hang on every word, and you can actually see the markets moving just on a word that comes out. If he mentions challenges or something like that with the economy, then the market swings one way, and then he talks about strong inflation figures or whatever it might be. Every single word they hang on. This Jerome Powell, the Fed chair. It's very, very important to listen into that to get some direction. And the markets, it's quite a dangerous time to trade, but it's sometimes fun. I like trading those kind of situations where you can do a bit of scalping, but obviously you don't trade big amounts and don't trade leverage, because the market can be extremely volatile at those times. But it can be quite exciting.
Yeah, these scalp trades can definitely pay off. That's for sure. If you're playing them, but you got to have a stomach for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not what we'd again. We're not really recommending that people jump into these. It's just for kind of experienced traders. We're not suggesting new people jump into this. For newer people, but even for experienced traders, that's where something like the eBay platform and portfolio allocation long-term positioning, using a logical approach. That's where that all comes in. And again, listening to the financial news, like we're sharing today, it's just every little bit that comes out, news on Iran, news on the election in America, all these things actually sway the markets because it affects people's behavior, and it's behavior that affects the markets with greed and fear, or fear and greed.
Fear and greed. And actually, if you look, I mean, yeah, sure, the Bitcoin market is tepid, but there's just so much interest in it. And of course, we did have a major sell-off, so it does appear that it may rise from here. So pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, the Bitcoin, I'm suspecting, it's quite interesting to look at how Bitcoin and Ethereum have moved just recently. I just noticed when you put the chart up that Ethereum is, when I saw over 7 days, I think it's showing on your little chart there, that Ethereum had really been lagging Bitcoin. And that's because the expectation has been put back on when an Ethereum ETF might be approved. And we were initially hoping it was going to be end of Q1, but now they're putting it back to possibly May, June time before there may be approval or even a decision on the Ethereum ETF approval. So that being put back has really knocked Ethereum a little bit for 6. And that's why Ethereum is underperforming Bitcoin right now. So we've had the initial sell-off from Bitcoin, following, effectively the buy the rumor, sell the news, but also the thing happening with FTX, etc. So we've had the initial sell-off. I think we'll probably see a bit of consolidation now. But for the time being, Bitcoin appears to be in a stronger position than Ethereum just because that the Ethereum approval for the ETF has been put back.
Yep. Interesting. Yeah, this is the 1 hour chart on Ethereum. This is the daily. You can see, of course, as we had our sell-off, the buy the rumor, sell the news event with the ETF. And then if you just wanted to compare it, this is the Bitcoin chart, same daily. We have a much sharper rise up so far. This will, I think, fill in the gap, though. So that's I have been eyeing it myself because of the reasons you mentioned. So
yeah,
interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. So I hope that was useful on gold. We can drill down into gold, silver, any amount that people want, but I think it's just gave some good sort of guidance on the relationships. And that's what I think is a very, very important part of managing portfolios, managing assets, because we talk about diversification and holding different assets within a portfolio, then it's important to understand the interrelationship and the correlations between those assets. And that's what Markovitz's theory, the Nobel Prize winner, was all about, looking at diversification and what proportion of assets to hold. And again, that's what eBay is all about, using those theories to build efficient portfolios. So it's good to understand the relationships, particularly the gold and silver. That breakdown recently has been quite amazing. The divergence between the price of silver and price of gold has been a very interesting one, and will definitely affect how people trade them.
Indeed. Well, Sir Matt, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah,
sharing
great pleasure
your wisdom
to be here.
and insights.
And look forward to tomorrow. Thank you for having me.
We look forward to tomorrow as well. I may be I may be at a different location. We'll see. I'll have the same background though. Amazing how that works.
Nice.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Talk tomorrow.
Bye, everybody.
Cheers. So there you have it. Big Matt with the breakdown of everything. I'll tell you what, we have a pretty interesting worldwide situation. It plays a lot into these markets. You see, of course, oil rising. You see natural gas just all over the place, as I was saying. Trump has really he's coalesced this group of states. Very interesting what we have going on here in the U.S. Of course, it is an election year, as Matt mentioned a couple of times on the show. It's an election year for a lot of other places as well, including the UK. In the UK, they have, of course, this, I forget the guy's name. He's an Indian guy, and he wasn't elected. He was just they did some, everyone has their own ins and outs of their political system. And I guess one guy decided he would step down, and when that happened, they were able to kind of almost like a Mike Johnson, but they didn't have to vote for him. So they have this guy, Rushil Shunik or something. Is that his name?
Yeah, so they installed him nicely.
They installed him. They coronated him. No, they installed him. They installed him nicely, and he's toted the line as he should for his people, for his aims, I should say. You have the farmers over there, David, all over the place. How is Ireland? How's the sentiment over there?
Yeah, it's not too bad here in Ireland, but yeah, I can't believe that they're throwing feces all over the Capitol buildings there.
I think they're calling it manure.
Manure, yeah, it's some nasty stuff, and
they're
I mean, what
manure all over the government buildings. I'll tell you what, maybe that's effective. Maybe that's, I don't want to say it, but it's pretty interesting that they do it, and it's not very unusual. I feel like for these farmers to protest like this.
Is it not?
Well, I mean, it's unusual and it's not unusual. I mean, the ones in the Netherlands, of course, I feel like they always protest. Actually, Matt had some pretty good insight on that the other day as well. I think a lot of what some of, at least from what it sounded like, we should find out more about it. What they're protesting is some of the subsidies that the government has been issuing are being taken away because, of course, are saying that they need that money to house migrants.
Yeah, so that's pretty rough.
That's rough.
Yeah, you don't want either system to take advantage of the money as well.
I mean, they have that. They've been under this migrant. Actually, we have been too. It's a little bit more. I think it's been a little more. Well, I guess it has been more for them. So we're going through now what they went through a few years ago, where it's literally just millions and millions of people that are coming in undocumented. You don't know who they are. Yeah, there's no vetting system in place. I mean, that's like the craziest part about what's going on here. I mean, you saw on the video I played earlier, you have the bus coming in, the van coming in, dropping people off, going to another bus, then they take them to process, and there's no vetting process that we have in place.
No, I've heard some personal stories like from there in Germany, and especially the smaller towns that are in a big shock, and it's really not a pretty sight for them. They're not being the nicest people, and they're causing a lot of problems that aren't to their lifestyle, their normal lifestyle. It's completely different, and everybody needs to figure out where they fit, right? This forced and unnatural migration on someone that holds a high hygiene of standard, and then
well, I mean, that is one of the things. Look, everybody's different, right? And we should at least have a say. We have no say at this moment, and we obviously keep funding this guy Mayorga and the border patrol, but why in the world? Same thing with the FBI, totally out of control. Look at this though, and here's what they do: they drop off their passports. They drop off their passports on the way in, and then they can just claim that they're Bruce Porter III or whatever they want to call themselves, and register and start a new life here. Which is, I mean, in one respect, it's nice for them, I suppose, but we don't know who they are. These people could have like a rap sheet as long as anyone that you've ever seen. Let's listen to this report.
It's amazing. I saw a video on YouTube of a YouTuber down by the border, and there are thousands of IDs right before they come across the border. They would toss them so no one had any way of identifying.
Like
passports, IDs. You could see this person's from China. This person's from Brazil. The patrol guy was like, they come here through this area. This is where they know to toss their IDs. Then they come across and say, I'm a refugee, and no one has any way of verifying.
People of this country need to understand that this is coming into their backyard. This person's going to be in their backyard under a different name, and you don't know what kind of criminal history this guy's got.
It's amazing.
They have the one guy, he's made the video rounds recently, and he says, "You don't know who I am, but you're about to find out very soon." And turns out, yeah, he's a leader of one of these terrorist type organizations.
Yes. Actually, my friend, since I'm still sharing this is one of my friends here. He actually put out the video on that, and I'll play it here.
And that's a threat.
Yeah. I mean, this was ominous. This was ominous here. It was a short clip. Let me just see if I can find it here quickly.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not it. Here it is.
You will know who I am, but you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am. You will know who I am, but you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am. You will know who I am, but you are really not smart enough to know who I am. You will know who I am, but you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am. You will know who I am, but you are really not smart enough to know who I am.
Yeah, they don't really follow a rather golden standard of love thy neighbor and do no harm.
Well, I mean, we're talking about guys that are more than like. I mean, that guy obviously, I think he's an agent of another country or organization. So, these are enemies. These are enemies of the country, and he's able to process in without anything. And when they talk about these people coming to the border and everything, they're processed in, but many of them are don't go and register, guys. Like,
of course not.
Yeah. If you were a bad guy, would you go register?
Especially, I'm sure that guy is funded. It's not like he needs to reach out and get his monthly, survival money.
I'm sure he's funded as well. He just spent some time in jail, from what I understand, for terror-related activity. I don't like to call it terror-related activity because I feel like terror is such a broad term. We had the war on terror under Bush. It was the war on terror. How do you fight something that's like a war on what? It's like a war on. You need to, if you're gonna fight somebody, you need to fight them. You know what I mean? A war on terror is it doesn't seem like, and it obviously wasn't very effective. So, now with that attack over in on the base, though, it's pretty U.S. base. That's pretty bad because, of course, Biden now, and whether or not they decide, you know what I mean, whether or not it was whoever they say it was, it's kind of like the weapons of mass destruction, right? Like, who knows? That's weapons of mass destruction. Breaking the government of Jordan, the attacks that targeted American forces near the Syria border did not occur inside Jordan. This is what I was talking about. This means the attack is on an illegal base in Syria, right by the border of Jordan. I don't know. But I did hear that Area 55, that guy's calling it. Tucker, this is worth watching. Let me pull this up here. Tucker, because we have these guys, the Warhawks, and these guys are making a lot of money off of the unfortunate killing of human beings. I don't have that video pulled up, so I'm not going to search for it, I guess. But Tucker says, this is crazy. Lindsey Graham is there, calling for, bombing of Iran, hit Tehran, take out the oil structure, everything like that. And it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that's it sounds like an intense move to the common person living over there to take out all the structure, the oil structure and everything. Well,
I mean, and what are they going to do if if that happens? You know what I mean? What is the next step? It's like I always say, like, you have to think, like, when you do stuff like that, you have to think what's going to happen next. Okay, so we're going to go bomb Iran and we're going to take out their oil infrastructure. Well, then what's going to happen? What's the next thing that's going to happen?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, good point.
So crazy. Yeah, so all this stuff will play out as well. I think in the markets initially, of course, war is profitable business. Unfortunately, you know, that's historically how things go. So, although I feel like the markets are they have been a little bit played out. So we'll be interested. I found the clip. Let me just show you this. This is Tucker Carlson, one of our favorites. Go.
I would tell Iran that if
Here's fellow neocon Lindsey Graham just spelling it out and calling for the bombing of Iran.
so I've been on the phone all day to the Mideast, and I've told our allies and people with connections to Iran, what I would do, I would tell Iran that if Hezbollah attacks Israel, we're going to come after you, the Iranians, and have a coordinated effort between the United States and Israel to put Iran out of the oil business by destroying their refineries. There are 4 major refineries in Iran. They're fixed targets. If Hezbollah attacks Israel, I would make Iran pay a heavy price.
What exactly would happen to the United States if we declared war on Iran and started blowing up their infrastructure? Lindsey Graham has no clue what would happen. He hasn't thought it through. He's almost 70 years old and he has no children. He doesn't care. But neither, amazingly, do most of his colleagues in Washington. They're as reckless as he is. Texas Congressman Dan Crenshaw took to social media to call for what he described as a war to end all wars, as if there is such a thing. But of course, there isn't such a thing. Wars beget more war. The bigger the conflict, the uglier and longer lasting the consequences. See World War I for details.
Yeah.
You know, like he a number of good points that he makes there. One of them, of course, is that Lindsey Graham is what did he say, 70 years old, and he has no kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Bomb Iran. I think these guys, they just get I think they get paid just like any other influencer on X or anywhere else to say stuff. I've seen them do it over and over again, and I'm convinced that's what happens. Big money, though. Big money.
Right.
Hey, you know, here's a few $100,000 or $1 million or whatever the price is. I want you to go and say this. And then it goes out and says this. Of course, Lindsey is, I mean, that's in my, I don't know, because Lindsey's all over the place, right? I mean, Lindsey Graham is just all over the place. He's all over the place. Like, he'll say whatever all the time. You never know what's going to come out or what side of whatever he's going to come out on.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't follow Lindsey Graham so close because of that. It hasn't been a reliable source.
Right. I mean, it's Lindsey Graham, guys. You know. But anyway, him going out there, and of course you had, of course, Crenshaw, and you had Thune, and I think Thune, and a bunch of other people, coming out and saying, kind of the same stuff. Lindsey Graham, Senator John Corwin, target Tehran, he says. I mean, come on, guys. And here's the other part about this. They're saying that it was Iran who bombed our base, and Jordan says it's not in their territory. I think if the government of Jordan says it's not in their territory, then it's probably not in their territory. Okay. I mean, I don't know. But I think if the government of Jordan says it's not in their territory, it's probably not in their territory.
Yeah, I hear you.
So, and they're saying Iran's backing these guys and this and that. And what does backing mean? You know what I mean? Like, that's a very loose term. It's a very loose term. Iran backs these militias that did it. Or they're operating this base or something like that. And maybe they do, but I mean, how how connected are these things? I mean, backed is a relative term. Does that mean they sell them arms? Everybody's in the arm business. We sell arms to everybody.
Right.
It's like our biggest business. The military industrial complex is how Washington runs.
Mm-hmm.
As a country, it's our biggest business.
And does that mean that all of them are backing them, or is it a few?
Sounds like there's WMD in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And then they use this as a prelude to start bombing Tehran.
Yeah. I mean, we saw that clip with the general there, and he says, "Oh, this is a plan to take over 7 countries in the next so many years, or 5 countries in the next few years, or something like this." And they have a strategy of things that are going to make people not cause suspicion and interrupt.
Good one. Here's that clip, as a matter of fact.
Just say hello to some of the people on the joint to worry about Iraq.
This is Wesley
Iran.
Clark, General Wesley Clark.
I knew why.
Let's start that again.
To worry about Iraq, not Iran. I knew why, because I'd been through the Pentagon right after 9/11. About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the joint staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me." And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, "You remember that?" He said, "Sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you."
General Wesley Clark there. We've been after these guys. I mean, it's like it's like Dad always used to say, we go to war to have a war. It's if you don't know what to do, I think that's when we get these guys in government and they don't know what to do, they just decide, well, I can't fix the economy, so let me just go to war. And of course, the central bank has been running all this stuff for so long, and nothing they like better to do but print up some more money and let you borrow that paper money, $3 for every $100. Yeah,
that's basically the fastest way you could spend it possible.
It's a sick business, guys. It's a sick business. We need to take the power back from these people. Go to @CostMetal. Join the monetary revolution. Go to @costmetal.club. Sign up now for free. You can get gold and silver at cost. Go to Global Boost. That's Global Boost with a dot between the O and the ST. It's a .st domain. Get involved. You can get some of the Global Boost coins there, and you can trade them and everything else. We are similar to Bitcoin, very limited supply. Can't freeze, seize, take them. Love you guys. David, great show today.
Yes. Thank you, Bruce. Well done, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.